In 1983, archaeologists excavating a site called Opi in present-day Enugu State, Nigeria, extracted charcoal samples from the remains of ancient iron-smelting furnaces. When the radiocarbon results returned from the laboratory, they recorded a date of 2,500 to 2,700 years before the present. That date places Igbo iron technology in the same century as the height of ancient Greece. It predates the Roman Republic. It is older than the oldest sections of the Great Wall of China. And Opi is not even the oldest site in Igbo land. The history of the Igbo people is one of the longest continuously documented histories of any people in West Africa. It has been recorded in bronze, in iron slag, in ceramic, in bone, and in meticulous scholarship of historians like Elizabeth Isichei, Professor Angulu Onwuejeogwu, Adiele Afigbo, and Catherine Acholonu, who spent their careers insisting that the world takes its civilization seriously. This documentary is an attempt to do exactly that, to follow the archaeological and historical evidence and to let it speak on its terms. The Igbo people are one of the largest ethnic groups in Africa, numbering over 75 million today, spread across the present-day Nigerian states of Anambra, Imo, Enugu, Abia, Ebonyi, parts of Delta State, Rivers State, Benue State, Kogi State, Bayelsa State, Cross River States, and Akwa Ibom States. But they are far more than the demographic. The renowned historian Elizabeth Isichei, in her landmark 1976 work, A History of the Igbo People, described the Igbo as a society of extraordinary complexity, a people who developed without kings, without empires, and yet achieved remarkable social order through a system of checks and balances that many modern democracies would envy. Decision-making was shared among elders, age grades, title societies, and critically, powerful women assemblies known as Omo, and another society known as Umuada. As the scholar, Professor Angulu Onwuejeogwu, a renowned professor of history, documented in An Igbo Civilization, Nri Kingdom and Hegemony, the Igbo political model was one of the most sophisticated examples of stateless governance in the ancient world. Their economy was built on yam farming, the king of crops, alongside palm oil production, fishing, hunting, and trade networks so vast they reportedly stretched as far as Mecca and Medina in the Middle East. Before a single European ship arrived on the West African coast, the Igbo were already citizens of a connected world. It all began with a man digging a well. The year was 1938. The place, a small compound in Igbo-Ukwu, Anambra State. A local man named Isaiah Anozie was sinking a well on his property when his spade struck something hard, then another and another. What emerged from that earth were bronze vessels and ornaments of astonishing beauty, objects so refined, so technically sophisticated that colonial officials who saw them simply could not believe they were made by Igbo hands. A colonial assistant district officer named John Field purchased several of the bronzes and published a report on them in the Journal of the Royal Anthropological Institute in 1940. By 1946, some pieces had entered the National Museum in Lagos. Others were taken to the British Museum in London. The English archaeologist Thurstan Shaw, who would later lead the formal excavation, wrote that the bronzes were utterly unlike the work of Ife or Benin. Their age, their origins, their purpose, everything about them was a mystery. So, in 1959, Thurstan Shaw was invited by the Nigerian Department of Antiquities to excavate properly. What he found redrew the map of African history. He identified 3 key sites, each named after the compound where artifacts had surfaced: Igbo Isaiah, Igbo Richard, and Igbo Jonah. At Igbo Isaiah, buried just 40 to 70 centimeters below the earth's surface, protected for centuries by a compound wall, lay over 64 kilograms of cast bronze and copper, alongside more than 63,000 glassware and chameleon beads. Shaw concluded that this was no ordinary storage room. It was a shrine, a sacred repository of Igbo ritual regalia. 30 meters away, at Igbo Richard, something even more extraordinary waited beneath the earth. At 3.5 meters below the earth's surface, Thurstan Shaw's team found human remains, a single individual buried seated upon a wooden stool. This person wore beaded wristlets and anklets, a pectoral ornament, and a copper crown. Around the body were the symbols of immense authority. Scholars have debated the precise identity of this figure, whether a priestly king, a ritual specialist, or a holder of the sacred Nri title. But all agree on one thing: this was a burial of extraordinary political and spiritual power. As Elizabeth Isichei noted, Igbo-Ukwu gives us evidence of a remarkably complex society centuries before contact with the outside world. The third site, Igbo Jonah, yielded a ritual pit containing one of the most iconic objects in West African archaeology, a bronze pot decorated with centric circles and a sculpted animal alongside animal bones and charcoal deliberately deposited as a sacred offering. Radiocarbon dating placed the Igbo-Ukwu metallurgical tradition at approximately the 9th century AD, over 1,000 years ago. The lost wax casting technique used to create these bronzes revealed a level of technical mastery that Catherine Acholonu, in her research on Igbo origins, described as evidence of an indigenous scientific intelligence that predates outside influence entirely. But Igbo-Ukwu, as extraordinary as it is not the oldest chapter of this story. Travel north to Nsukka, Enugu State. Here, in a cluster of sites, including Opi, Lejja, Oba Omanu, and Owerri-Elu, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of an iron-smelting industry so ancient, so massive, it rewrites what we thought we knew about African technological history. Ironworking is not a minor detail. It is the marker of civilization, the technology that enables agriculture, warfare, architecture, and trade at scale. At Opi, just 7 kilometers southeast of Nsukka town, archaeologists first discovered iron-smelting remains in August 1983. Scattered across the site were large cylindrical blocks of iron slags and fragments of tunyere pipes, the unmistakable fingerprints of a once roaring industry. Scientists took charcoal samples. The radiocarbon results were staggering. 750 BC. That is the time of the ancient Greeks, the founding of Rome, and here in the hills of what is now Enugu State, Igbo iron smelters were already operating furnaces on an industrial scale. The largest concentration of smelting evidence at Opi covers over 21,500 square meters, roughly the size of 3 standard football fields. At the village square of Odinazo, ancient slag blocks were repurposed into shrines and incorporated into building foundations, a tradition that continues in some communities today. And then there is Lejja, a cluster of 33 villages where, according to Dr. Afigbo, and corroborated by Hebrew scholar and African history researcher Dr. Sidney Davis, there is nowhere else in the world with a comparable concentration of iron smelting evidence. At the heart of Lejja's village square of Obolo Lejja, over 800 blocks of iron slags are arranged in neat rows used as seats during community gatherings to this day. They are not decorations, they are the byproducts of ancient furnaces, preserved by the near indestructible nature of slags and by sacred traditional taboos that forbid their removal. Archaeological dating has placed Lejja at approximately 2000 BC, making it one of the oldest iron smelting sites, not just in Nigeria, but in the entire world, and home to the highest known concentration of iron slag in sub-Saharan Africa. As the historian Adiele Afigbo argued throughout his career, the depth and antiquity of Igbo material culture demands that we completely revisit the colonial era narrative that dismissed African societies as primitive or historically shallow. The evidence does not lie. The Igbo were not merely participants in history, they were among its earliest architects. So, how old is Igbo civilization? If we follow the conservative estimates of most historians, including Professor Elizabeth Isichei, it is at least 8,000 years old. But the archaeology tells us a more provocative story. The iron smelting sites at Lejja push that timeline to at least 4,000 years ago. The furnaces at Opi take us back to 2,700 years old, and some scholars, including Catherine Acholonu, in her controversial but evidence-rich work, They Lived Before Adam, have argued that Igbo linguistic and cultural roots stretch back to some of humanity's earliest migrations, tens of thousands of years into the past. What is beyond dispute is this: the Igbo built sophisticated metallurgical industries, elaborate ritual systems, complex political structures, and far-reaching trade networks entirely on their own terms, long before the first European arrived on the coast of West Africa. As George Thomas Basden, one of the earliest ethnographers to document Igbo society, observed in his 1921 work, Among the Igbos of Nigeria, even he, writing from a colonial perspective, could not help but note the remarkable intellectual and organizational sophistication of Igbo communities. What he could not have known was just how deep the roots of that sophistication truly was. Every slag block sitting in a village square, every bronze not resting in a museum case, every shard of pottery pulled from the red earth of Igbo land, each one is a message from an ancestor who lived fully, created brilliantly, and build something meant to last. The story of Igbo is not the story that begins with colonialism or with the transatlantic slave trade. It begins in the deep time of human history, in fire, in iron, in bronze, in the careful hands of men and women who looked at raw earth and saw civilization. That story deserves to be told. It deserves to be heard. And it is only just beginning to be uncovered. If this video opened your eyes to a history you weren't taught in school, share it. Someone needs to see this. Drop a comment below. What part of Igbo history surprised you the most? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment in the comment section. I will leave a link in the description to a full list of archaeological finds in Igbo land with sources you can go deeper yourself. Igbo history is world history, and the ground is talking. This is Enu and a Cultural Forum, and my name once again is Prince Onwode Ngozi Chukwuka Fortune. I will see you in my subsequent videos. Do well to hit the subscribe button and share this video widely. Thank you. Bye-bye.